So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the Tories and the Labour Party dismissing the EU's plan to allow kind of some freedom of movement for 18 to 30-year-olds. That's how it's been dubbed, but some of these places do kind of simplify it overly. It's kind of cool because I'm not far from my 30s, so yeah, this would have been cool, I guess. But yeah, you got Labour saying a senior Labour MP likened the scheme to a sugar rush fast fix solution that would be helpful to an incoming Labour government but hard to wean off. So this is kind of, that the narrative of cheap labour and all of this kind of stuff, even though, EU workers had, I think, a 1% impact on wages or something like that. It was very negligible. This kind of language here is Faragian. It's Faragian. Anyways, that's how we should call it, Faragian. I think that sounds cool. So Sunak rejected the offer. Sorry to switch from light to dark. The Prime Minister declined the EU's proposal for a mobility scheme. So what happened was the EU wanted an EU-wide scheme because the UK was classically cherry-picking. So I think von der Leyen said the topic of youth mobility is in both our interests because the more we have youth mobility being on both sides of the channel, the more we increase the probability we'll be on good terms because the next generation knows each other very well, which is a good statement from von der Leyen. But the UK government indicated on Friday that Brexit had ended freedom of movement and it had no desire to reopen that conversation. They were saying, we are not introducing an EU-wide youth mobility scheme. Free movement within the EU was ended and there are no plans to reintroduce it. A government spokesperson said, however, they did note the government would be happy to do deals with individual member states, is knowing the UK is keen to deal an arrangement with France. Now, it's interesting they picked France, right? I think just thinking about this now, I think they picked France because of the au pair thing. So au pair are like nannies, and there was a big story like a couple of years ago where they were saying rich people are struggling to get nannies, and I'm assuming that a lot of them must come from France because, instead of calling them nannies, they call them au pairs. So I'm assuming that's what it's down to. Now, I could be wrong on that one. Because it's kind of on the fly theory, but it could be that. It could be that these are one of the proper European countries, as some racists like to say. But anyways, one source said the UK wanted to cherry pick which countries it wanted to start the programs with, which is true. I think both parties are terrified of anything to do with freedom of movement. I think that's one of the other problems. The Conservatives have been urged to rethink the offer. Ed Davey of the Lib Dem said expanding our existing youth mobility visas to cover European countries on a reciprocal basis would be a win-win. I think we do have some sort of agreements with Australia with kind of like easier visas, but I guess freedom of movement is a completely different thing for that. He said, of course, the details would be negotiated, but no government should reject this idea out of hand. And one of the good things about freedom of movement is that you get to meet other people. They're not us otherwise. Once you meet someone, once you meet other people, your views of them change. Sometimes for the worse, but most of the time for the better. You realise that, they're not like how you read in the papers. Like, I thought German people weren't funny. And then you speak to some of them and you're like, wow, you guys actually have jokes. Crazy, I know. But that's how it goes. I guess the biggest joke is the UK right now anyways. But I guess we're the punchline here. Anyways, I don't know where we're going with this. But yeah, there's the wean off thing. It's just Farage kind of rhetoric there to appeal to the red wall. I mean, I would love to see someone kind of defend a statement like that. Maybe the LS guys or someone like that. Maybe they can willing to make a statement on it. Oops, I didn't mean to include this one. But this is part of the course for Labour because they announced the policy on John, let's just play the clip.
Arguments to say that if people pay their taxes, contribute to society, they should have some sort of a say. That might not just be voting. There might be other ways in which people can have a say in what happens in their local community. But I think, there are a lot of ideas being looked at by the party through the policy-making process. One of the other ideas, for instance, is around 16 and 17-year-olds having a vote as well, which is obviously an important issue that's been around for a while.
So you think the European citizen vote is a good idea, you personally?
Well, let's see where the policy lies. Well, to be honest,
this was in the week. This was, I think, one of Starmer's pledges or something in the leadership contest he talked about, and then he kind of backed out of it.
There's a big discussion to be had amongst many different people within the party, and then ultimately, well, look, I believe in having discussions. As a member of the front bench, I believe that my role is to have discussions with my colleagues, and then we come to a collective decision. But that's ultimately a decision for the manifesto process. Without going through all the details of Labour Party process, you've got a meeting this summer. You've got the conference, you've got the manifesto setting meeting and so on. So there's a lot of different stages.
It's so Weasley when this one things I think Starmer promised, so it doesn't make any sense. Obviously Paul Professor Paul Bernal not happy about this, but it's all about the strategy. I'm sure the Knight's got this one figured out. This is about Brexit checks. So these checks have been postponed 5 times, and it looks like the UK's border checks are going to be completely useless. Nothing will change by October 2024. This from Dr. Anna Jalzaska, 2 doctors in 2 tweets on 2 different areas of expertise, I guess. Well, I guess this is her of expertise. It's just him kind of spitballing. He is a professor of IT law, so his politics would not be his academic expertise. But anyways, nothing will change with the October checks. So it's just more money wasted, I guess. And she goes on to say, whenever these checks are introduced, they will cause delays, drive up prices. The works. Sorry. And you've got Liz Webster saying this is totally ridiculous. This totally ridiculous, incompetent government is a shambles. The UK will not turn on post-Brexit checks on EU goods for fear of border delays, because that's what it calls massive border delays. Industry groups say the clarity leaves businesses unsure of how to manage the new rules due to start on April 30th. It is beyond frustrating that repeated warnings about the readiness of crucial infrastructure has been ignored, and now in less than 2 weeks, businesses will have to navigate the clearly broken system, said Philip Pluck, head of the Cold Chain Federation, a lobby group for perishable trade goods. The government must postpone full implementation until October and start working with the food logistics industry for a system that genuinely works and mitigates even more confusion, disruption, etc. I've got a theory that they're going to either pass this on to the next government, which will probably be the Labour government, or they're just trying to make it a system where everything is as lax as possible in terms of import checks, so that they can do import checks on everyone rather than just on most countries rather than on every country as they are now. It's a bit weird what they're doing, but the costs of these kind of checks are astronomical, absolutely astronomical. The amount of border officers you will need is a lot more than we have now. And that's one of the reasons they haven't done it. It would cost a fortune, an absolute fortune. I think Michael Gove said we'd need 50,000 customs officers, which would cost. It would be crazy, like a crazy expansion. I think I did the calculation last time. I'm trying to see if I've got my calculator. Sorry, this is probably bad video content. So if we're talking about 50,000 customs officers, and you're charging them, I don't know how much they get paid, say 30 grand, right? So 30,000 a year. It's going to cost 1.5. Actually, that's not that bad for a government. Is that 1.5? 1, 2, 3, 6. Oh no, it's not 1.5. It's a lot more than that. I think it's going to cost a fortune there. So yeah, I'm trashing numbers. So if you want to tell me how much that is, that's 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion. That's how much that cost. And that's just staff. That's not even counting infrastructure or the extra costs of the food, etc. This is just staff. This is just the 50,000 customs officers. Honestly, it's wild. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.